So hi, it's Michael Sheehan, otherwise known as High Tech Dad on the web, and today I'm here with a person from Intel, and that person's name is Jeff Galinovsky. And Jeff, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, what you do at Intel, and
Sure.
what we're going to be talking about here.
Great. Yeah. So as you said, Jeff Galanowski, been at Intel 17 years now.
Wow.
The last 5, 6 years, I've been focused on working with our product group on creating education products, trying to be innovative in the marketplace, and use our technology know-how and our pleasure of working with education to kind of marry those two together. So we've created a business over the last few years that's really helped focus on how do we take and bring technology, appropriate technology, and help education. And so my job right now focuses on how do we do that? How do we build a robust ecosystem? And how do we make sure there's success for both the schools, the teachers, and the students with this technology?
Great. So one of the things we're here to talk about is this guy right here, which I actually really like. This is the Classmate Pc. I don't know if people can see it here, but it's sort of like a netbook for kids, I guess, is the easiest way to describe it. I mean, it's got a
Got it.
nice pivot screen. It's got a touch pad. You have a stylus. Oop, I just lost your video.
Uh-oh.
There we are. Gotta love the wonders of the internet. We'll keep going here. So anyway, it's got it's quite a nice little form factor. But you're the expert on this. I'm sure you've been working with this product for a while. So why don't you give me sort of the elevator pitch on what this is and why it's useful?
Yeah, cool. I can do that. Intel spent since probably 2005 timeframe really looking at how to develop what we now call purpose-built netbooks for education. We originally weren't calling these netbooks back when we first released our first version in January of 2007. But it was really looking at the school systems. What kinds of technology are they using? Not very much. And when it usually wasn't the lower grades. K through 5, K through 6, K through 8 typically didn't have a whole lot of technology. It might have been a lab, might have been something else. And one of the reasons is the cost of technology has been prohibitive, especially for those age ranges. Kids drop systems. You're not going to want to give a kid a big giant laptop. I have two kids, 11 and 4. Love them to death. My ThinkPad that I use for work, not going to let them use it all that much.
Yeah, it doesn't love them, right?
Exactly. And so what we decided to do is kind of look at how can we help spur technology adoption in classrooms, providing one-to-one type devices so that the goal here is every kid's got access to that technology on a daily basis, and it's accessible in the classroom, it's accessible at home. And so what we did is we went about, and what you've got in your hands, or what I've got in my hands here, our latest version of our convertible tablet is, lots of those years of that research. And it's about, when I take this to a classroom, how do I do something that's specifically for the kids? The first time when I walked home with my laptop, my classmate, I walked in the door and my older daughter said, "Dad, is that for me?" Instantly, she looked at it and said, "Hey, that doesn't look like Dad's notebook or netbook. That looks like something for me." And the answer was, "Yeah, actually it is. I want you to play around with that. I want you to try this." And she instantly loved it. And the goal here is everything that went into this device has a reason and some research behind it. It's rugged and robust. I can drop it. I can drop it on the floor. The goal is, I'm not going to run down the hallway and bang it on the lockers, but the goal is, I want this to be able to handle the daily rigors of a kid. If a kid drops it, it's okay. If a kid throws it in their backpack, chucks their backpack on the playground or at home, and it impacts the ground, that's okay. We want them to be able to have that ruggedness. It helps the kids be able to keep their device safe, but it also helps the schools in that, hey, I'm not replacing these things every 5 minutes. It's water resistant. You can actually spill this, and unfortunately I don't have any water with me, but you can actually pour water on the keyboard or the screen or the touchpad. Again, that whole ruggedness angle to it. The rounded corners, all of those elements are really the design elements that keep it rugged and robust. The other element is...
It even has a nice little handle built in to it.
Exactly.
Yep, just as you were showing it, yeah. And it's got sort of a no-slip kind of finish, easy to grab, that sort of thing.
Yep, you got it. And the whole point is, especially when they're in a tablet mode, you know, I can put my finger underneath the handle, and now I can hold this with one hand and interact with it, draw on it, do whatever I need to. So one of the cool things is when we moved to the convertible tablet, was it last year? That was all based on classroom research as well. When we walk into a classroom, we would watch kids using the clamshell version of this, and we watch them pick up, walk to the back of the room, working with Sally on a project by the beanbag chairs, or going from desk to desk. We call that micromobility. We don't do that. When we take our laptops, we pick them up, we run to a conference room, or we take them home. Kids don't do that. They're moving around the classroom. We said, hey, they're still mobile enough, but let's make them even more mobile. And that's how we developed the concept of moving it to a tablet.
So do you call it a tablet? Do you call it a tablet, a netbook? I mean, what's
we call it it's actually a convertible tablet netbook.
Okay.
It's not a full-on single tablet where there's just a single piece.
Right.
So we can actually go in tablet mode, or sorry, in clamshell mode. We call this reverse clamshell mode. Lots of kids do this. They sit it on their desk and it's easier to draw on, or full tablet mode.
Gotcha.
The other element here is what we've done with the touchscreen. So this isn't your typical, featherlight touchscreen like you've seen on some of the devices coming out lately, but we did this on purpose. First of all, from a price standpoint, a capacitive touchscreen that would be this big is very expensive. But we wanted them the ability to write naturally, and the way kids write naturally isn't how we write with tablets, which is with our hand in the air. They write naturally resting their palm on something. Mm-hmm. So you can actually rest your palm on the device, on the tab, on the screen, and write or draw, and it actually ignores the palm. And we've done that on purpose because that's how kids learn to write, and we want them to have that continued natural writing ability. The other element is the camera. It actually rotates 180 degrees. Actually, it's a little bit more than that. It's like 270 degrees. Done like that so that if I'm like this, I can take a picture in front of me. I can walk around my environment and take pictures or video. The stylus, you saw the stylus. It's actually a little bigger than our first version of this product. We got feedback on that. Hey, we want a stylus a little bit bigger, especially for K through 8. We want them to be able to grab onto the stylus a little bit better.
So the oops, I lost my lights in here. So the price point on this, I'm guessing it's got to be thousands of dollars, right?
Oh, of course not. No. That'd be a tough book.
I lost that to
you. The goal here was that we needed to strike that right balance. We have to be careful because if you go below a certain price threshold, you start to lose the ability to do the features that kids need in classroom. They need rich media. If they're learning how to read, if they're learning a new language, they need to have that rich media, that interactive environment. So based on our Intel Atom processors, we took the feature set that we have, the ruggedness, the screen, all those elements. We don't actually sell this. We actually do the design, and our local OEMs sell it. But I can give you the range. Mm-hmm. The price range for the convertible tablet is anywhere from the mid threes to the single unit retail prices $499.
That's great.
In the schools, you're going to see them in the mid to upper threes to the low to mid fours.
That's great. So how does a school go about getting one, or how do parents go about getting it? I mean, I know you can order it through Amazon or something like that, but are there school grant programs that Intel does or the OEMs do or something like that to get this technology into the hands of students where it's needed?
Good question. It's actually available through all of our local OEMs, what we call kind of our local system builder, system integrators. We've got over 60 of them worldwide. In the U.S., there's 3 of them, and they can either go directly to those sites, or they can get them on other sites like Amazon or CDWG or several other of those elements. The way schools buy them, it depends. If we're talking obviously about the U.S., they usually go through their normal purchasing cycles. Either companies like M&A Technologies, CTL, or Equus Computers are the ones that sell it, and then they have resellers that sell it. Schools buy from CDWG, for example. CDWG carries this product line. So through their normal technology acquisition channels, they can purchase these. There's also some new channels that are kind of popping up. One of the elements that we are promoting with Classmate is what we call our ecosystem. This ecosystem is a set of hundreds of other education technology providers, whether they're software, whether it's hardware accessories, whether it's content providers. These guys are developing ed tech that go in line with Classmate, works with Classmate, optimized for Classmate. Some of them are actually adopting the program and selling it as a bundle, as a combination, holistic learning solution. And one example, and this is where an alternative distribution channel comes in, is McGraw-Hill, our wonderful textbook company in the U.S., is actually reselling Classmate PC. They're actually using it under the M&A brand Companion Touch. So it's the McGraw-Hill Companion Touch with their content bundles. And so now when a school goes and buys their content, they can get the digital version of the content with the delivery mechanism for one-to-one, so that every student now, instead of getting 5 books, gets a Classmate with all the content. And now they have one little thing they can take home in their backpack instead of 5 really heavy books in their back.
Yeah, and my daughter, I have 3 daughters. Mine actually has kind of a interesting thing where they get 2 books, one for home and one for school. So this would eliminate that and add tech into the whole mix.
You got it. My daughter's the same way. I have an 11-year-old. She just starts middle school.
Yep.
She's got copy of book at home and copy of the book at school.
It's like crazy.
Wow. Very crazy. So lots of ways to get it. We've got Lego Education sells them. Pasco Scientific sells them along with their science sensors and the Lego robotics sets. So there's lots of ways schools can get the devices. Grant programs, a lot of the local OEMs will work with a grant program to be able to do that. Intel doesn't offer a specific grant program, but we can work with schools to help get them in touch with the right NGO, the right organization to be able to do that.
Great. So I know that a lot of schools are really Mac centric. I mean, I personally love Macs, but obviously I have lots and lots of computers. How's it going competing head to head against sort of the Mac, which seems to be ingrained into education?
It's kind of an interesting question. Mac is typically, what I've seen in the classrooms in the U.S. is typically the older grades, high school. When you start looking at K through 8, you really don't see a lot of any tech penetration. You'll see labs. You really don't see a lot of the computers getting into the classroom until you get to high school. You start to see kids bringing laptops to schools, and they'll bring a mix. I've actually seen a big mix. Apple's a good friend of ours. We do a lot of work with Apple. But if I look at the comparison of what a product like this can bring to secondary or even elementary school, it's a totally different product. It's a totally different category of products. You don't find the same ruggedness, the same kid-friendly type design for the younger kids, and you don't see that from a lot of companies. But from our perspective, we're willing to work with lots of different companies. It's not Intel's laptop, it's Intel's reference design. And our goal here is to proliferate technology solutions into classrooms via our vehicle. We call it the Intel Learning Series, through those concepts and that technology. And we're willing to work with lots of different people. And we have worked with lots of different people to get those different elements into the classroom.
Great.
So I look at it as a different approach.
Okay, and a couple more questions here. So there is some very specific software that's already pre-installed on it. Is that something that you guys developed? Did you work with a software developer to work with the form factor and that sort of thing? How does that work?
It's a combination of both, actually. We have this robust ecosystem, so we work with a lot of partners in our ecosystem. The goal behind the software is we want to provide a base core set of applications to enhance the usability of this platform in a one-to-one environment. So we provide things like classroom collaboration. We've got Smart Classroom Suite on there. It allows teachers to be able to stream content to and from her computer. So let's say the teacher's in the front of the classroom. She has her notebook or even tablet. She's walking around the classroom. She's teaching a lesson. She's streaming either supplemental content to them. So maybe she's talking about math and she's doing a lesson on sine waves. And she can stream to them a little application that they can watch how different parameters change as you change different parameters, the amplitude, the frequency. They can even use slider bars to change it and see themselves. So now they're getting the auditory mode of learning, the visual mode, and even potentially the experiential mode of learning all exercised in one lesson. Mm-hmm. She can do quizzing or testing, either a full-on quiz or test, or she can do more of kind of the formative side where as she's teaching, hey, did you guys understand that? And they're like, oh yeah, and she shoots a quick quiz question over to them. The answer comes back, 60% didn't get it. Yeah, okay, let me try to reiterate that lesson because most of the class didn't understand that. Let's go over it again. And so she can get real-time feedback whether the class is getting something or not, versus the everybody goes, uh-huh. And I've seen that. I teach graduate school as well on the side, and I get that all the time, even from my adult students. They're like, yeah, I got it. And then you ask them, but really don't. So this is an easy way for them to do that. She can also put them into groups, so group collaboration, and watch how they work, and either watch them on the screen and see are they on task. And if there's a group that's not on task, she can either communicate with them via the computer or get up and walk over to that group. But it helps her to focus on which groups are on task, or maybe which groups are struggling a little bit. She can go give them the focus.
Great. So
there's some security tools on there to allow more safety. So what sites they can see, what sites they can't see, things that make interaction easy, things that make it easy for student and teacher to collaborate. If the kids aren't paying attention, she can get their eyes up front. Right, they're off using the computer and she's trying to teach a lesson. She wants their attention. You don't need to be surfing for Hannah Montana wallpaper. I want your eyes up front, and she can do those kinds of things.
So that kind of leads into my next question, and it's kind of a loaded one. Do you feel that technology in the classroom is a good or bad thing? Because, I mean, obviously you've given some use cases where it's a good thing. You get the real-time feedback, you can push supplemental information, but, I, as a parent and not a technologist, I have to come in and say, okay, is it a distraction? Is it too new for our students, or is it okay because they're growing up with technology now?
Yeah, I found a comic the other day when I was on the plane coming back, and it was a picture of some kids in a classroom, and they had a book in their hand, and the kids look into the other guy and said, how do you turn this on? Technology is an interesting thing in education. Obviously, I'm in the job that I'm in because I truly do believe technology can help education. Mm-hmm. I look at it how it's helped me in my job. I've got my office on my hip, whether it's an iPhone or a BlackBerry or whatever. I can go anywhere. I have access to that. I have the technology I need in my laptop. Our kids don't have that. We've been teaching our kids the same way for 100 years. Yeah. And we see the decline in the U.S. of our education system. We're one of the highest per pupil spends, but yet we're not anywhere near the high on the list of actual accomplishments. Right. Technology in and of itself is not going to help education. It's a tool, and if we realize it's a tool to help our kids learn and to provide them with the skills that they need, in a way that it moves them from kind of an instructor-centric to a student-centric model. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean take the teacher out. The teacher's actually even more instrumental in a student-centric model. But now they have access to the tools. They've got information at their fingertips whenever they need it. They've got their homework with them all the time. They've got the books and the content and all those applications that they need when they need it. If they're at the soccer field watching their sister practice working on their homework, they've got everything they had in the classroom there. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When they're in the classroom, they've got the tools that make learning exciting and make learning a little bit more fun for them. I was at my daughter's middle school orientation or back to school night, and the science teacher was like, hey, the first week of school went really well. Some of you might think that in the lessons that we've done that this is going to be a real hands-on class this year. He goes, it's not. And I went, this is science. How can you learn science without hands-on? Right. So from that account, technology as a tool to enable student-centric learning, wholeheartedly agree. And if we look at where lots of other countries are going, they're adopting technology like crazy. And I'm just very surprised that we're not that much more open in the U.S. to that technology adoption. Yeah,
and actually that's a funny story because my daughter as well is taking a science class in middle school, and it's the actual opposite. It's her favorite class because it is hands-on. And I guess, in parentheses, because there's no homework, because it is hands-on. But anyway,
but here, the other thing too is if you make it so that the homework is entertaining and fun and enjoyable, they actually don't mind doing that. And the problem with technology today is it's typically brought into a classroom and it's used to automate tasks, and that's it. And it's like it's really not enabling.
Take that next step.
Yeah. You got it.
Yeah,
you got it.
So one last question here. So what is the next version of this going to look like, and when can I get it?
Wow, that's a good question. I don't know that I can answer that all that well. We are constantly looking at how do we improve the design, both from us being in the classroom and watching. We've got ethnographers on staff that have put lots and lots of years of research into these things. We continue to do that. So we're watching the trends. We're watching what makes sense. You can kind of see where the trends are going this year. We typically try to put out products every 12 to 18 months that refresh the design, add new elements to keep it fresh and to keep kind of that, the continued evolution and innovation in education. We're trying to do that. So, that's about all I can say.
All right.
Look for some products sometime next year that are going to be really cool.
That's great. All right, Jeff. Well, I appreciate the time. It's been extremely informative. And I'll be writing up a little bit more about the Classmate on my blog. And for those watching the video, my blog's at www.hightechdad.com. And I really appreciated the time, Jeff.
I appreciate you having me. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.